100% privacy. I disagree. I think what they want is to have some element of control over what is released, what isn't released, and that when things are untrue, they need to be protected from those stories. They've made that extremely clear. And so when her father then does a deal with a PAC, I think it's only reasonable that Meghan would say, well, can you be honest about that? Let's have a look at what Prince Harry says about the control of the press.
But I also am acutely aware of where my family stand and how scared they are of the tabloids turning on them. There is a level of control by fear that has existed for generations. I mean,
but who's controlling whom? It's the institution. From our point of view, just the public, it's...
Yeah, but the institution survives based on that perception.
A strange thing.
If you feel afraid of the coverage that you're getting, I think it's understandable that she would feel like she wanted to know a member of her family.
But if you talk to most of the senior royals now, I can guarantee you, because I know this for a fact, they would all say they have a much better relationship with the media than they've ever had in this country, actually. That the kids generally get left alone now, that the paparazzi action around them is much better regulated. It's nowhere near as intense as it was in the Diana era, where everyone knows it got out of hand. They feel like they get a much fairer crack of the whip from the papers now. And yet this is the time, you see, what's lingering with Harry, he can't let it go, what happened to his mother, and I completely understand that.
Yeah.
I would probably feel the same way. But William went through exactly the same thing. And he's managed to come to terms with the media, and he works with the media, and he recognises the media is there actually, it performs two roles. One's to hold them to account because they're publicly funded, the royal family, but secondly, he also wants to promote the monarchy. Because if the media doesn't promote the monarchy slowly dies out.
Okay.
Monarchies have died out all over Europe.
Alex, yes.
Well, hang on. We come, Alex, in a sec.
Okay, all right, I'll wait.
Well,
would you mind waiting?
Well, actually, I don't know. No. Carry on.
To you, mate. I'm just going.
I was going to make the point, Alex, that something very different happened with Prince Harry, was that he was in a relationship with a woman who was very different, and they felt that the press then turned on them and was racist.
They have had an overwhelming amount of negative press. I watched the program yesterday, and yes, they had some great press around the wedding, but what press is going to trash someone's special day? There was bad press around the engagement, before the engagement, and everything that has followed since has been incredibly damaging, quite clearly to Meghan's mental health and also to Harry. And I hear Piers say that, William has gone through the same thing, but do you know what? Siblings experience tragedy in their life, and one will be absolutely fine and brush it off, and the other will not be able to deal with it so strongly. And that's clearly what has happened with Prince Harry in this situation. He walked behind his mother's coffin at a tender age in front of the globe. That is going to shape a young boy for the rest of his life. So I think that we need to all take a step back. And I understand that you don't like Meghan Markle. You've made it so clear a number of times on this program, a number of times. And I understand that you've got a personal relationship with Meghan Markle, or had one, and she cut you off. She's entitled to cut you off if she wants to. Has she said anything about you since she cut you off? I don't think she has, but yet you continue to trash her.
Okay, I'm done with this.
No.
Sorry, no. Sorry.
So, do you know what? That's pathetic.
You can track him, maybe not mine.
No.
See you later.
I'm being...
Sorry, can't do this.
This is absolutely diabolical behaviour. I'm sorry, but Piers spouts off on a regular basis, and we all have to sit there and listen. 6:30 to 7 o'clock yesterday was incredibly hard to watch. Incredibly hard to watch. This is he has the ability to come in here and talk from a position where he doesn't fully understand.
Okay.
And I'm
I think we need to just all take a break. We'll see you in a moment. Okay, Richard, thanks very much for taking us through that. If you haven't seen it yet, you can watch Oprah with Meghan and Harry. It's on the ITV Hub right now. Well, clearly what that interview has done is it has raised a lot of emotion, a lot of tension, and there are enormous issues at stake here, very important issues.
I don't think there are issues that we can't overcome.
Yeah.
Through
Yeah, but what
conversation.
we need to do, Alex, is talk about them in a civilised manner, given we work at the same show, on the same team. You're
Piers,
launching into a
Piers,
pretty
I wasn't-
personally derogatory monologue.
I wasn't.
But one of your colleagues
No.
isn't probably the best way to go about it. All right?
Piers.
So sorry, much
listen
as
to-
I'd like to sit here taking abuse from you
Piers,
for hours on
just
end,
back
that's
up,
not going to
back
happen.
up for 1 second and let me finish. I'm not trying to come on this show and take you down, tear you apart.
That's exactly what you tried to do.
That's not.
And I'm just not prepared to do that.
Piers, let
I'll
me
take
talk.
it from people outside.
Let me.
I'm not going to take it
Hold
from
on,
you
just
as
because-
one of our team.
Piers, just because we're on the same side doesn't mean we have to have the same view.
No,
I'm
you can
allowed-
express your
I'm-
view
no,
without being
no,
personally
hold on.
derogatory.
Listen, the thing for this whole situation is very personal for me, and I'm not by no way, shape, or form accusing you of being a racist. You know, I have the luxury of knowing you on and off screen, and we've had conversations. I know where you stand on things. I'm not
Let's just make that clear, that
I'm-
you do
I'm-
have these conversations all the time.
all the time,
off
all
air.
the time, and I've got a great amount of respect for you, Piers.
I wanted you on the show today
No,
because you sent
because
me a really
I did,
thoughtful
because-
and nuanced
Exactly,
message about
because-
all this.
yeah,
and I
because
thought we
I'm
could
trying-
have a
because-
thoughtful,
because-
nuanced
because-
conversation.
Well, let's
Piers,
have that thoughtful,
I'm trying
nuanced
to-
conversation
I'm
because
tired
that's important.
of
for the
finding a
viewers.
different way to explain, not to you, but to so many people, on why what is being said is so wrong.
Right.
I've
right,
walked
let's get into-
I've walked into institutions as the only person of colour
Yeah.
and experienced covert and overt racism on so many occasions. And why the Meghan interview really resonates with me is because an ex-work colleague, not of this show, asked me if I was worried about the shade of cocoa that my son was going to come out.
Right.
So I fully understand the hurt that is behind all of that.
Right. Let me ask.
And when you're mixed race, what you find, in my personal experience, and there may be other people that may come forward and say this, is that when you are a lighter shade of black, people gain confidence and feel that they can say things to you that they wouldn't say to a black person.
That's such an interesting point.
And that is my experience of all of this.
Right.
And
by the way,
Meg-
I completely respect that. Right. And that's why I wanted to get you on the program today. It was my suggestion to have you on to talk about this.
But
Right.
and thank you so much for having me on the program. I really appreciate it. But I just want you also to be aware of the power of your words. And I'm not saying that you're a racist, but what I
Well,
do,
what are you saying?
do you know what I honestly feel? I feel as though because of your previous relationship with Meghan Markle, you've sometimes
have a relationship
but
with
you
Meghan
met up
Markle.
with her, you knew her.
I
you
knew
said-
her briefly,
All right, so we
right?
joked about it on the show.
All that
you've
did
got-
was it. All that did was it.
Piers.
So I'm allowed to speak.
Okay, talk.
All that did was inform me that she's a bit of a cut and run.
Right.
Right. Throughout her life,
And
all her family, her father,
Yes.
her ex-husband, her ex-friend,
Right.
they've all been cut out of her life. Right.
And
It's an interesting observation that I happen to be one of those
an
people.
interesting observation.
Let me-
but I
but-
do feel
Right, can I finish
this
the sentence,
situation that
please?
you are
Hey,
struggling.
guys, if we're going to have this conversation,
You've got to let me talk.
I talk.
Right. Can we talk about the programme? It doesn't really matter what I think of Meghan Markle. It doesn't matter whether I believe her or not. What matters is the damage that she is accused of doing to the royal family. And let me ask you honestly, on the issue of race,
Mhm.
she has now got the whole of America and the worst of the world, frankly, looking upon the palace, the monarchy, the Queen, everyone in the royal family as a bunch of racists. And it all comes down to two things that she said in the interview.
Mhm.
One is something she didn't hear,
Mhm.
but Harry reported back to her,
Right.
that a senior member of the royal family that
Yep.
wasn't the Queen or Prince Philip, so presumably is either Charles or William, we would hazard a guess, has made a comment to Harry about what colour skin his baby may be if the relationship progresses.
Okay, but
Apparently
there was
before the
concern
wedding.
about the way in which that
Well, hang on.
question was
Well,
asked.
that's my question for you. She said there was concern. Harry didn't say that. And my question for you is this, and it's a straight question I think a lot of people are asking, because you've been in this position,
Yeah.
right? And you've been equally offended.
on the receiving end of that
Is
question.
there is there a qualitative difference between somebody perhaps innocently saying to you,
Mhm.
out of interest, if you have one parent is white, one parent is black, what colour could your baby be? Let me finish. What colour could your baby be? Is there a difference between that question phrased in that innocent, perhaps, way, and somebody doing it in a tone that says, well, how dark is your baby going to be?
Well, I
in a
think,
derogatory, perhaps racist
right,
tone.
exactly, and there is a difference. But what we're getting from the interview is that it was said in a negative way.
She said that, but he didn't, did it?
Listen, stop separating Harry and Meghan. They are a team, quite clearly, a very strong team, and I do believe that she backs him up and he backs her up.
Right.
So, and like I said, tone and language is everything.
But is there
when
a
it was said,
but let me ask
when
you,
it was said
on that
to
point,
me,
is there a
the key word was, are you worried?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
But that to me is
and
racist.
there's a big difference.
That to me is racist.
But that's what she
It is
reports.
racist.
Do you think it's
She
racist?
reports
It's a legitimate
concern.
question many people have asked. Is it racist, do you think? If, for argument's sake, it was William or Charles, let's not put a name to this person. We don't know. And part of the problem, I know you agree with me about this, it'd be easier if they just said who it was.
Right.
Right? I'll come to that. But is there a difference? If it was said, perhaps in all innocence, right, and they just said, oh, what colour baby might you have, without any suggestion of it being a concern or a worry if it had darker skin, would that in itself, would just the question be racist?
That in itself is fine, but you have to think about how it feels on the receiving end, because what we're speculating is as to how that message.
I don't know how it was communicated.
Right,
what I would say to you is, if it was done as a worry or concern,
we also have to take into consideration how it felt. The other thing that we also have to think about, and I've publicly said this on Twitter, Piers, I agree with you now that I feel that they should have named the person, because all it's led to is all of us asking loads of questions, and I personally am looking at the royal family as to which one could
who's
it be?
The racist? Yeah.
Who's the racist? But again, we have to also just take a step back. Do you know how much courage it takes to actually speak about racism, to actually call it out? Because I've been in situations where I haven't called out every single bit of racism that's happened to me based on how I've been treated or how it was handled in the past.
Because you're worried about a backlash.
And you're also worried about a backlash. And there will be people that will treat Harry and Meghan differently because they've spoken out.
Okay.
But this is the whole thing. We've got to get comfortable talking about the uncomfortable. And that's why it's important for me and you to have this conversation.
Fine, but let's just not make it personal. It's fine.
It's not...
You made it personal. Well, let's move on.
You know what? It's hard because, Alex, you know what? We talk personally about, you know, people on this show, and we give our opinions on them, don't we? So actually, sometimes it does come back at you. We have to be, you know...
It's fine. It's just the way it was done. We can disagree about that. Let's move on. Well, it's fine. I don't think people really care too much about you and me anymore. It's not
about me and you, and I'm not here because...
Well, let's not talk about me and you then. Let's move on to the second part of their charge of racism. Meghan Markle said that there was a decision taken by the palace to stop Archie being a prince based on his potential skin colour. That is completely untrue. That's just not true. Now, the damaging effect of that, plus whatever may have been said to Harry, and we don't know what it was or the context, and we don't know who said it, but it was those two things have detonated as you know, a racially charged bomb at the palace, which is almost impossible for them to refute because they don't talk in public about this kind of thing. And people aren't probably going to believe them even if they do now. But that's what concerns me, is that the first part of that allegation, we don't know any of the details or who said it or how they said it. And the second one is completely untrue. Meghan just got it wrong. Archie hasn't been prevented from being a prince because of his skin colour. And that's been now believed by Americans on national television there. And that is damaging.
But again, do you know what? It's their lived experience. And
no, it's not true.
Look, Piers, it's their lived experience. And again, this is where the confusion comes in. You know, how do you sometimes identify covert racism? It's actually quite hard because it's not there.
No, but Alex, on that one, it's not true.
I know,
There's no covert racism.
But Piers, what you're saying is there are facts.
Right.
And what Alex is saying is there is an experience and a perception of those facts that you only appreciate when you're in that situation.
No, I'm sorry. On that second part, on the first part, I agree. If it turns out, let me make it crystal clear where I stand on this. If it turns out that a senior member of the royal family, a future king perhaps of this country, we don't know who it is. I don't want to cast, the aspersions are being cast because they won't say it. But they have eliminated the Queen and Prince Philip. So they've gone halfway, which I think is incredibly unfair on the ones who are left. But say it is a future king that said this in a derogatory way. We can't have a racist king.
We can't.
So that to me would be racism. But people said, but the second part of the charge that that Archie has been banned from being a prince because of his skin colour is just untrue. It's nothing to do with racism. The fact itself on which he's based that claim is not true.
Except her perception appears to be that it might have been.
Well, it's like me saying the sky is blue
by
outside.
race.
My perception is it's raining. You can't muck around with facts. She got the facts wrong on that. It's been demonstrated today in every paper. That fact is simply untrue. There's been no discrimination against Archie in terms of being called a prince because of his skin colour, because he's not entitled at the moment to be called a prince. Just the rules of the palace, set 100 years ago.
But at least she's explaining her experience.
Exactly, she's explaining her experience of it, and you know what? We've not walked in her shoes, so I wouldn't.
I don't care what your experience is. If the facts you're basing it on is
you're
wrong.
still entitled to perception. You know,
Not about facts or not.
And that's also coming through lived
But Alex,
experience.
on that one, you're not entitled
Okay,
to.
but
I don't care about her feelings.
Okay,
if
but
the fact is wrong.
what concerns me more is the comment about the colour of the baby's
Right.
skin.
Right.
Okay, we all feel passionate about different things.
Yeah.
Okay, we've not even spoken about the mental health and all
Well,
of
we're
that.
coming to that.
We'll come to that. But it's really important that we have these conversations, because what I've noticed on Twitter, particularly over the last few days, is that this interview and what's happening with the royal family, the ripple effect is huge.
Huge.
To the point where
It's
me
not
and
a
you are on
ripple,
here, we
Alex,
feel so
it's a
passionately about it, and it's
tsunami.
great.
I genuinely feel,
and I want to talk about it, and,
Yeah.
and I do feel as though, of course, if we find out who it is, I'm sure, you will be right behind me, and I'll be right behind you, talking about how wrong it is and how,
no question.
no question whatsoever.
If they're-
But what I find is that people are don't always want to accept that it's a possibility that something like this has happened. And this is the thing with racism, right? Racism isn't always caught on camera. Racism isn't always a black man led on the floor with a white police officer's knee in his neck.
Mm.
It comes in all different shapes and forms. And what I want
totally
to
agree
see
with you.
is the same energy that we had back in the summer right now.
Yes, but okay, but let me just put a little dampener on this, right? One of the two charges of racism, perhaps the most incendiary, that actually he was being discriminated against, because the Queen decides all the titles. So what she was basically saying is the Queen's a racist who stopped Archie being a prince because of his skin colour. We know that is completely untrue.
So
So
I don't know that the Queen's a racist. I would like to think that the Queen is not a racist.
Right.
I don't think she is a racist.
My point is this.
Okay, but he's obviously got a difficult relationship.
No, but
with
Alex,
her. And this is no ordinary family, Piers, because
I know.
as we heard from the.
But Alex,
the
do you
interview
accept?
yesterday,
Do you accept on that point? Meghan just got it wrong.
like I said, I am not an expert on royal protocols.
Right.
I am not an expert.
The experts
on,
who are have all said unanimously.
They've all said, but again, they've said something different. Piers,
I haven't said something different.
I'm happy to listen to both sides.
Well,
Well, they feel a certain way. They feel
so-
that Archie hasn't been given a title
Exactly. So
because of the colour of his skin.
Prince William.
that's-
We know that's not true.
Well, hang on a moment. So Prince.
But you don't know
Prince-
that it's not true.
We do.
No, think about it.
Do.
Can we just talk about
Yes,
this particular
if,
fact?
If we think about the possibility that what they're saying is true and that they were worried about how dark Archie would be, it's also a possibility that they might not want him to be a prince. They might not want him to have a title. And the thing is, shock horror. These things happen in life. Unfortunately, this is the way it goes sometimes. Everyone's acting like they're fully surprised. I can't say that I'm fully surprised to hear these allegations. And it is important to realise that sometimes, you know what, we don't even know we've got these problems in our family. You might have an all-white family, and one day someone of colour walks in,
I would love
and you
that.
find out. I know,
I love
but
that.
and-
Christian
and-
Goddard yesterday
and-
said
and
to
you
me,
find out-
wait until one of your sons marries a black
Listen,
woman. I was like, I would love
and do you know
that.
what, Piers? I wouldn't be surprised if one of your sons brought
And what part
a woman of
and
colour.
what part of your knowledge of me would think I wouldn't embrace and welcome?
Piers, but the thing is, I'm not saying. That's what I'm saying. We have conversations on the show.
Mm.
We have conversations off the show. Okay, and I don't feel that you are a racist. I'm sorry. And if people say to me, Piers Morgan, I will 100% say
I don't have a racist bone in my body.
because I'm judging you on my experience of you, and my experience of you is not that.
Right.
Okay.
But that's why I just feel as though the stance that you were taking on it yesterday was so strong. I just feel that it was slightly clouded by the fact that you've had an experience with her, and actually what this is really about is the fact that you don't like Meghan Markle, and that's okay. You know what? And it's okay that Meghan Markle might not be perfect.
All that did,
It's
and let me
okay
just
that
stress
she might
again,
be a little bit difficult.
I did not know her that well. All it did was inform me that she has a bit of a streak in her where she cuts people out of her life and she moves on. That's fine. She's entitled to do that. But she's done it to her whole family apart from her mum. We've got her dad coming on now. He's been disowned. You know, she's got a track record of it, which I just personally find is informative about her personality. I want to turn to another part of this, Hillary, which